Hello, listeners, and welcome to Teachers Have Issues. Yes, I am your host, Lana, the educator. If you're a first-time listener on this channel, welcome. Here we explore the latest educational trends, tackle pressing issues facing the education sector, and conduct insightful interviews with people making a difference. We also share stories of triumph and innovation from around the globe. If you're interested in all of this, then like and subscribe. Today on Teachers Have Issues, yes, I welcome my guest, Charisse Jodhan-Xavier. She is a dedicated special education needs mathematics teacher based in London. Her teaching journey began at Malick Secondary School in Trinidad and Tobago, where she taught for 6 years, followed by 2 years at Saraswati Girls Hindu College. These experiences ultimately led her to her current role in the United Kingdom. Charisse holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Statistics, as well as a Master of Science in Statistics and a postgraduate diploma in education. Reflecting on her strong academic foundation and commitment to lifelong learning, beyond the classroom, Charisse loves traveling and cherishing quality time with her loved ones, as well as blending her passion for exploration with a deep appreciation for family and connection. Welcome, Charisse, to Teachers Have Issues. Yes.
Hi, Lana. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. Of course, I want to open with the question of how did you end up in the UK teaching mathematics?
Um, well, migrating has always been one of my goals in life, and it became easier when I got the opportunity to teach here in the UK. My husband, he got a job here. So he came across on his work visa, and then I followed. And my plan here wasn't to teach. My plan was to actually go into statistics, seeing that I had a heavily statistical background and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities in Trinidad for statistics was so limited and underpaid. So I never got a chance to pursue that side. But when I came here, I just started to apply for random jobs. And this special education school,
Mm-hmm.
this it really had me thinking, I've never seen this side of education in Trinidad. I
Mm-hmm.
was never just exposed to teaching special needs students. Well, no, we knew we had special needs students in the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really trained on how to teach them. So I was like, you know what, let me just give it a try. It's my first job. I was thinking I didn't have to do anything too serious. I wanted to enjoy my time now being in the UK and
Mm-hmm.
working. I didn't want any job to be too demanding for me,
Mm-hmm.
having now shifted my life across there.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to give the job a chance. And so far, I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm listening to you saying, I didn't want anything too stressful and too strenuous, but special education, most people I find say that it is one of the more demanding aspects of the education system. So what do you find special education teaching has been like? I know you say you love it, but in terms of what people would have said about it, what are your views on that?
It is very demanding, but I think how the system here in the UK is. So let me just give you a brief description about the
Mm.
system. So how we call schools secondary schools in Trinidad, they call it mainstream schools.
Okay.
Okay. So all students go to mainstream schools, and when these students are absent from school, if teachers suspect that they might have any learning disabilities, these students get referred for education healthcare plan.
Mhm.
And then these students, they get excluded from mainstream schools and they go to special education needs schools, like
Mhm.
the local authorities and stuff, they pay
Mhm.
for. And when they come to us in these special education schools, that we work on them on a one-to-one basis,
Okay.
which is what I think makes it a lot easier than having a classroom of students with mixed needs. That I think is what you're talking about is more hard to juggle. Even a classroom with 15 students with special needs is pretty hard to juggle. But I think the fact that I get to work with them one to one, so I could tailor their education in a way that will suit them, I think that's what I mean that it isn't as, stressful. as how some other teachers might see it. But that is, so I'm able to basically do what I want to tailor their educational plan and things that will benefit them, because like on a daily basis we'll meet autistic students, students with dyslexia, dyscalculia, ADHD. So it's really, I really get to work with these students to cater to their needs at the end of the day, which is something that I like.
Yeah, so what is interesting to me is I know for many people going to special education fields mean you have to have a specialized degree sometimes. So some people have fully special education degree or would have specialized in reading or learning disabilities or things like that. So how do you navigate that? How does it work for you who, if you want to say mainstream school, basically have a mainstream mathematics degree, not necessarily geared towards special education? How do you navigate that?
Well, as you said, I didn't have a special education background, but seeing that I am in a school like this, every Thursday we have training. So after work, we have training for 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, where they will basically teach us how to deal with specific students, different disabilities, like strategies we might use for autistic students. And basically just interacting with all the teachers in the school as well, because it's a community. So things that I might not pick up on because we share students at the end of the day.
Okay.
So things, strategies I might not integrate in my classroom with a particular student. A teacher might pull me up on that and be like, hey, why don't you, try this method with the student? Try to change your tactics. Don't really do this with them. Try this method. So it's basically a big community at the end of the day.
So I know maths not being one of my strong suits personally. I know it's challenging for students, and I don't think I ever was a special education student, and it was challenging for me. So I know it can be particularly challenging for students with special needs as well. So how do you make those complex concepts in maths accessible and engaging for your students?
What I've noticed with a lot of these students is these students suffer from really low self-esteem and confidence. They don't have confidence. They're gonna succeed, that they, especially academically. So I think the number one thing I try to do is build the confidence of my students before we even try to get into complex maths. So I will scaffold from the easiest of concepts, make them feel like they've achieved a lot from the simplest of concepts. And as I slowly build their confidence, the harder concepts becomes a little easier. They become more confident. They want to do math. They actually see the real life applications of math, which is something I try to stress on during my classes as well with them. So it is a process, but the good thing is some of these students we get when they're like in year 9. So that means they have at least 3 years for GCSE exams, which is equivalent to our CXE back in Trinidad. So over those 3 years, I really see the difference in some of these students. Well, I haven't been here for 3 years yet. So one particular student I had for 2 years, and when he first came in, he was the most shy, anxious student I had ever met. I had no idea how to have a conversation with him, how to talk to him, anything like that. And now he is a totally different student. I was telling him I'll have an observation next week, and he joked. He was like, "Oh, so now we need to be on our best behavior next." So it's I think that confidence in students is a big thing we take for granted. Much it can impact a student's learning.
So are there any strategies or learning styles that you've taken from your home country and it works well there, or you've adapted it to your teaching there in the UK?
I think, well, with math, a lot of it is real life applications, which I've practiced a lot in Trinidad throughout the years. I mean, the culture is different. Sometimes like I need to be careful with um like my cultural examples.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing that UK is a very cultural, multicultural society.
Mm-hmm.
Like each one of my students has a different cultural background.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard at times. Like in Trinidad, yes, we are a multicultural society, but everybody is just so blended at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But here it's a bit different because yes, it's multicultural, but everybody kind of keeps to their own small groups.
No, kind of insular, even while it's multicultural. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome those challenges that you face so
Well,
far?
I think I learn a lot from the students as well.
Mm,
At the end of the day, they share a lot of their cultural experiences with me as
mm-hmm.
I would do with them. So, at the end of the day, teaching is not just about getting the maths curriculum done, it's learning these things from your students
Mm-hmm.
and having overall holistic education. And I think that contributes to it
Mm-hmm.
for the students. So just, having chats with them, asking them about traditions that their family will do for Christmas. And then when I learn a bit more about their culture, it's easy to relate real life applications in maths with them.
Um, I like that you touch on the fact that so for me, listening and just knowing, I think what we know about the UK and the groups that would have been there, they're very similar, I think, to Trinidad and Tobago in that we have that multicultural and multi-ethnic society itself. But you touched on the fact that I think there may be on surface level some similarities, but then a little deeper there might be some differences. So how has your multicultural background influenced that connection with diverse students that you might have had? I know you said that you know that there might be some differences, there are some slight differences, but there, in terms of your experience here in navigating multicultural people, what how do you connect with those diverse students?
Well, I think a lot of these students in the UK, they are from, they have a lot of students with Caribbean backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
as so
Mm-hmm.
you might see when I connect with these students and they realize I'm from Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be like, well, first they don't say Trinidad. First they're like Jamaica. And I'm like, no, I'm not from Jamaica. And then they will guess Barbados, and then
Oh.
like they'll guess it's Trinidad. And then when they hear Trinidad, they'll be like, oh, Nicki Minaj. And I'll be like, yes, Trinidad does not claim Nicki Minaj. Trinidad. And, and then, so I'm kind of strained. But yeah, so the students, when from getting to talk to them, they'll be like, oh yeah, my dad's from Jamaica and my
Oh,
mom's Irish, or my dad's from Jamaica and my mom's German. So
mhm.
even though we think we're so different from them, like just
Yeah.
those little connections, they feel connected to you because they do they do come from so much different backgrounds.
Mm,
I think that really helps me connect with them, some of the students.
good. So how does teaching students with special needs in mathematics differ from here in Trinidad and Tobago, do you think? I know you described to me a school where basically you have special needs children being identified and basically pulled out and the curriculum adapted for them in terms like individual education plans and things like that. But I don't think that we have that kind of system that structured or even in place in Trinidad and Tobago, but we will and we would have encountered special needs children in the classroom. So how for you is it teaching mathematics to those special needs children differ between, Trinidad and Tobago and the UK?
Um, I think in Trinidad it was a major challenge,
Mm-hmm.
especially at Malick Secondary School.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very mixed classroom, very
Mm-hmm.
mixed, but none of these students were actually diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard to, complete the curriculum, to get these students to want to do well, want to further their education.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it's different here because
Mm-hmm.
there's greater funding, there's more support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Education is tailored to these special needs students.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So what are some common misconceptions about teaching maths to students with special needs?
Ooh, well, I think some of common misconceptions is that I think we believe that a lot of students they have this calcula
Mm-hmm.
that they just can't process numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not true. I think that they could all succeed. It's just that they just need somebody to help develop
Mm-hmm.
the right tools and the right resources to help them succeed.
And it's better if it's done from early on than, because I think for a lot of people, even in speaking to adults, even in people that listen to the podcast and they hear some of the things teachers say, they said, oh, that's me, but I'm an adult. And this is the first time I'm hearing, that that's me. I used to have that problem in school and nobody really identified it. And, many times when they hear special needs, it was, well, something wrong with you or you're dumb or something like that, So
I think too,
go ahead.
when we hear special needs in Trinidad, I think this was my problem as well. I first thing that came to my mind was students with disabilities, like
Mm-hmm.
physical disabilities. That's my interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Until I came here now and I got to thinking that it's so much broader than just a physical disability. It's students with ADHD, anxiety, depression. These things are considered as special needs, and I don't think there's a large emphasis in that in Trinidad.
So do you describe your class for me? I know you spoke about working with maybe smaller, I don't know if it's smaller group. You did say one-on-one. So is it you and just the student, or is it a smaller group of students that you work with?
No, it's just one-to-one. So student will come to school every day for math, English, science, and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And the same student rotates around it along the day.
Mm-hmm.
And each day I will have a different student.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So what is your interactions? I should first ask, do you interact with the parents in terms of when you're developing a plan, for example, for the students? What does your interaction with parents look like in that kind of scenario?
Well, by the time the students come to us, as I told you about the education and healthcare plan, all the students' information is on this plan. So the plan consists of their needs, whatever disabilities or special educational needs might have. And the plan also has strategies. So it's a very well developed document, which I have to read for every student before I get to that. So this plan is basically like the Bible for these students' education. So I don't have much contact with parents.
Okay.
The most contact I might have with parents is if a student doesn't come to school or something like that, then I might contact a parent. But in terms of learning strategies and stuff, sometimes parents do contact us because these parents are learning as well.
Right.
I think they use us for guidance. So the parents might contact us on different strategies to use at home with the students.
Okay. So what role does technology play, if any, in teaching special education maths at your school?
A lot of the students, they use Scribe to get along with their exams. There are lots of sensory devices as well that they use. A lot of students use overlays, and I think back in Trinidad, students weren't really exposed to these sensory devices and visual aids that could help them succeed with their education. All students have laptops with word processors and stuff like that. So it does make it a bit easier.
So what is Scribe?
Scribe is just an application that I think more the English teachers use it. So I'm not it, but I think like Scribe translates for them.
And what you said something about overlays. What is that?
It's like a blue piece of paper. It's not really paper, like a plastic that students with, I think it's the dyslexia read. So it's clear for them to read.
Oh, okay. So it's like a manipulative, the physical thing that they actually put for reading and stuff like that. They use it in their maths with you, or your
No,
They
they
use it.
could use math,
Oh,
like they're doing worded problems and stuff.
okay.
With overlays.
Okay. So you talked a bit about your having training, I think every Thursday or something like that. You said so that's
Yeah,
once a week training.
yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like? Why is that there in place for you?
Uh, Training is mandatory in the UK for all teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get in like a few hours of
Mm-hmm.
training for a week. I'm not too sure
Quota.
what's the actual quota. I just go and it's after working hours as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean that training has been, as much as I don't like to go after work because I just want to come home. That
Right.
train that training has been very beneficial
Mm-hmm.
to me over this past year because I've learned so much. We have teachers that run the training.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I do the maths training. I've done it just like 1 or 2 times. So they try to get teachers as much as involved as possible as they can get. And training is very interactive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a variety of topics. It's just really good overall because a lot of teachers, as you said, don't have training in special education needs.
So how has the transition been for you? Not so much just as a math teacher, but as a someone moving and migrating from one place to the other into the school. How has the reception been? How has the onboarding process been for you?
I think it has been a really easy transition, especially as I've been a teacher for the past 10 years
Mm-hmm.
and I've faced a variety of different educational backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
from Trinidad. So I think that has helped me a lot from the 2 schools that I taught in Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
polar opposites.
Mm-hmm.
So I think basically I could have handled any situation I was trying to teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So it generally was a very easy transition. The hardest thing was probably actually learning about all these special needs and how to deal with these students. In terms of curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a challenge. It
Mm-hmm.
was just learning how to deal with these special needs students, which is something I really enjoyed learning. I think every day I learned something new.
Right.
These kids.
And just as well, you can take this question and interpret it any way that you like, but what has been, if any, a challenge for you moving to the UK? It can be in your profession, or it can be personally, or the weather, or the
I was
people.
I was I was not gonna say the weather. The weather here is so bipolar. Last week, when it was -1 degree Celsius and it snowed,
Right.
and today it's 16 degrees Celsius, and I am hot. So I think the weather has been the biggest challenge for me, and the lack of sunlight. Now I have to take vitamin D supplements, which I never even knew existed before I moved there. So now I have to learn about seasonal depression because it's
Oh,
I feel like it gets dark by 4 o'clock. So sometimes I'm walking out the door and
right.
it's already dark. So
Oh.
all those things you don't realize how much that can impact you and your quality of life and your well-being. So I think that has been the biggest struggle for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you still sound like you like it though. You sound like you're enjoying
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
I do like it, and I am very grateful for the experience.
Mm. So do you think you're going to stay now in special education teaching? Because you said
Well,
your intention was to go into statistics, but now look where you are.
yeah, no, I think I do want to specialize a bit more in
Mhm.
special education. So I'm probably gonna check out what programs
Mm.
the UK might offer for me.
Mm. That's nice. So what is a memorable success story you have of helping a student in mathematics? Could be anywhere, any one of your students in any country you've taught.
A memorable success story. Well, I have a lot of my Saraswati girls
Hmm.
on Instagram.
Right.
Like when I left, most of them follow me and stuff.
Hmm.
And, um, so I told them and Matt, and now they're in university.
Mhm.
And I always see them, like they will always post pics in class and they will tag me and they'll be like, oh, wish my Form 5 maths teacher was here. Wish Miss Jordan was here. Should have listened to Miss Jordan in class. So that always makes me feel really nice.
Yeah. And they're doing well, you know.
And yeah, they're doing well as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how has the teaching practice evolved since moving to the UK? Because you talked about training every week and all of that. How do you think you've evolved as a math teacher since moving to the UK?
I think as a math teacher, I definitely scaffold more.
Mm.
I think sometimes, when you're teaching brighter students, you just get to the point
Yes.
just to cover the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But with these students, it's definitely a lot of scaffolding. And I think when you do this, it benefits the students at the end of the day because they have a deeper understanding
Mm-hmm.
of the topic. They don't just learn a method and move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is something that I have noticed in my practice a lot.
So what aspects of this probably how should I word this question? No, I'm asking the question, but I'm thinking, we used to be a British colony, but either way, what aspects of the British special education system you think could be beneficial for us to adopt here in Trinidad and Tobago, even just in the Caribbean region?
I think a lot more emphasis needs to be placed on students with mental health issues.
Mm,
I think these students, they need to be taken care of. I think
mm,
safeguarding, I think the Caribbean doesn't really have a safeguarding culture like I see here. Like, yes, we do have social workers.
mm,
Yes, if there's an issue in the classroom, the teacher will take it to the dean, to the principal. But
mm,
I just still don't think it goes as far as it should go.
mm,
Um, yes, we do have policies in Trinidad, but I think that teachers just need to be a bit more trained a bit more on safeguarding. There also needs to be more resources for teachers to use to make safeguarding easier. So
mm,
like here we have safeguarding platforms and that if we're with a student and let's say the student brings up like an issue, they have like just say a student comes to school every day and we've noticed that student's not eating
mm,
breakfast.
mm,
Like something as simple as that, we will flag on the safeguarding platform, sorry.
mm,
And then have a safeguarding officer who will contact the parents and see what's going on before it becomes a bigger issue. And I
mm,
think something as simple as that, that's probably something as a teacher in Trinidad I've taken for granted.
mm,
If a student comes to school and they told me, oh, they didn't eat breakfast or they're hungry, the most we might do is tell them go for a box lunch, a
mm,
box breakfast, sorry.
mm.
And I think it's these little things that students need more support with safeguarding and protection because these small issues, they turn into such bigger issues later on in life. And if we could prevent them from the start, I think we'll have a much better education system.
Good, well said. So we're going to ask Charisse the question, what issues she thinks teachers have? Teachers have issues, yes. I know you spoke on safeguarding. You can elaborate a bit more. You can just tell us about any other issue you think teachers have anywhere in the world.
I think a major issue that teachers have is a lack of resources and training. Which brings me back to teachers who have to deal with special education needs students integrated in their classroom. So they have multiple students who might have these undiagnosed needs working with students who have these needs, students who could just adapt and go along with the curriculum. I think that is a problem. And I mean, all of this is because of insufficient training, also lack of professional development because schools, they don't really prioritize these needs because of budget constraints and teaching gaps. There are lots of teaching gaps in specialist knowledge as well. Also, something as simple as I think specialist support. We don't have external professionals coming into our school, such as speech therapists, educational psychologists, social workers.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we do have social workers that are coming in, they're often overworked and overburdened with cases,
Mm-hmm.
which delays help and support to our students at the same time. So I think all of these constraints do heavily impact the quality of education these special needs students get at the end of the day.
Okay, good, thanks. I know that when we did your bio, you talked a bit about, your love for travel and cultural connection and things like that. So as someone who loves to travel, how do you incorporate your global experiences into your teaching methods? I know that you said that you bring real life experiences to your teaching. So what has travel been like? Let me rephrase that question. Where have you traveled to since moving to the UK, and have you been able to incorporate those experiences into your teaching?
Um, I haven't really thought about this as a question.
Was that?
I said I haven't really thought about this.
Oh,
Really reflected on this.
right.
But I'm not too sure if I really do
Mhm.
words. I think it's kind of like to keep my
Personal
personal
life.
life a bit private. And
Right.
so it's not something like, I will really
Yeah, I feel I will come out more in like an English class because there's so
yeah,
much to pull out
there's
from
so much
that.
like there's so much discussion. Like English is always so much discussion.
Yeah.
Maths, I mean, I'm not gonna write a worded problem
I
on
bet yourself.
that I bought 100 watermelons in Paris. So yeah, no, it doesn't really come. It will just come up like in conversation with students.
Conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, but not. To be honest, I don't really like
No.
relate. I mean, it's a good idea. Maybe I could try, but
Oh, I always wondered, like, because my area is not math, and there's so much that you really pull from just, anecdotes and that you can relate. I always struggle to see how people can make maths relatable. How do you make mathematics relatable to
it it,
students?
it is a challenge at times. Wait, you know what students that they like to do? They like to play this game, the flag game, where you just show them a picture
Mm-hmm.
of a world flag and they have to guess. They
Mm-hmm.
love that game.
Oh,
Yeah. And
wow.
you could easily get that game like on the internet, just look for like a flag trivia quiz
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and do
that's
the
nice.
students. Yeah, they love learning about flags and like showing off how much flags they know. So
Oh,
that's nice.
okay. Well, that gave us something to think about. I know that you have a background in statistics, and you did say that that was where you intended sort of to go when when you made your first move here. So have you been able to use it in any way? How do you make that data literacy accessible or use it in your special education teaching?
Um, I do use it a bit in terms of just me for my own personal use, just reading up relevant statistics. But in
Mm-hmm.
terms of actually, I think statistics is more higher order concept, so it doesn't really come up much
Mm-hmm.
in teaching because I just teach GCSE maths, so I don't teach like higher math to
Oh,
students.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think my teaching goes to that level with students, and that we need some kind of statistical analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you make your subject engaging for students? And it doesn't necessarily have to only be special education students. For a lot of students, not just maths, but school in itself is an obstacle to overcome. How do you make it engaging and accessible?
Like I said, real life applications, once you can relate to something.
Mm.
Students say they love football. The
Mm.
foot the football culture here is so huge. So,
They use
I mean,
that.
yeah, I guess a good few
Were
lessons.
you interested in football before,
Um,
or did you have to get interested to be
I,
able to do this?
I had to get interested in football when here, but I mean, I am interested now, and it's
Right.
nice. Again, statistics does tie in a lot with
Uh-huh.
football.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I could use my statistic background
Mm.
there as well with
Mm.
them. which they like because they like looking at the statistics and they like looking at the Premier League table and calculating the points. And so, like, as I said, it's culture. So their culture here is that Premier League table.
Right.
Yeah, like, so it's pretty nice. Has been.
Right. So how do you, I was going to ask a long-winded thing, but I basically just want to ask you, do you get homesick?
Yes, I do get homesick, especially during holidays, so Christmas, Diwali. Um,
But Diwali just having gone here and Christmas coming up. Yeah.
but I mean, I do try to make my own traditions,
Mhm.
lessen the impact of being homesick. I mean,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I'm away from all my friends and family,
Mhm.
but it's easy because they do visit, and with FaceTime, WhatsApp, it's so much easier now
Right.
to in contact. And I think I do see my friends more now since I moved up here
Yeah.
because they can't wait to come visit for us to go travel somewhere. So it's nice. It has been.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah.
So we're just wrapping up. What are your future goals there in education? I know you said that maybe you will go deeper into special education, but what's the future like for Charisse Jodhan-Xavier?
I I think I would like to pursue um a program that will allow me to better understand these special education needs students and how to deal with them in a
Mhm.
classroom setting. I've always wanted to do my PhD, but the advice I'm always given is that you have to be ready to do your PhD.
Mhm.
You can't just sign up for it. You have, yeah, and I don't think I'm at that point where like I'm 100% ready to do it. It's something that I'll like to do, but I'm no, I'm not 100% ready for it.
It's
So yeah,
really sacrifice
yeah.
a
So hope
lot.
academically, those are the two things that could come in the future.
And then maybe next time I'll have Dr. Charisse Jodhan
Yeah.
on Professor Charisse Jodhan on our program, and we'll look at what that journey look like there. So thank you so much for joining us here on Teachers Have Issues. Yes, any parting words you would like to share for our listeners or students or teachers thinking about moving to the UK for teaching?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Mm,
It was fun.
was it?
And my advice for students is just continue working towards your end goal. It
Mm,
is possible. Um, when I was a student, I never saw myself being a teacher in the UK,
mm,
traveling this much, having all these experiences that I do have now.
mhm.
Um, yes, I mean, as a child, you dream of it, but when it actually comes true, it does feel like you're living in a movie. So
Oh,
just continue working and all your dreams will come true once you put in that effort.
great. And on that positive and enlightening note, we thank Charisse Jodhan, and I want my listeners to know that you empower minds and you ignite curiosity.
Thank you.